So I just finished Spider-Man 2 and I thought that it was pretty fun. However, I thought that Insomniac were really going to nail it this time. It's no secret that the Insomniac Spider games have been absolutely fantastic, but it's also no secret that they have a pretty good number of flaws. The first game was near perfection. If you were to remove the MJ stealth and puzzle segments, it would probably be one of my favorite games of all time. However, those badly designed segments really took me out of the overall experience. Despite that, it had a very well written story and phenomenal gameplay elements. So nevertheless, I had a lot of fun. And then Miles Morales came out and Insomniac attempted to fix the problems that Spider-Man PS4 had. But instead of fixing them, they merely put a band-aid on them. Instead of doing puzzles as a regular dude, you do them as Spider-Man now. So when Spider-Man 2 was announced, I pre-ordered it at the first chance I got and told myself that this was going to be it. They didn't need to add gameplay elements to balance out being Spider-Man, because there were two very different Spider-Men to play as. If the player got bored of using Peter, they could just switch to Miles and get a whole new gameplay perspective. And I thought that was exactly what was going to happen. Unfortunately, they did not do that. Now I'm going to talk about all the good stuff first because it's way faster and easier to talk about the good stuff. So let's break it down. First of all, the Spider-Man aspect of the game is pretty much perfect at this point. I thought it couldn't get any better after playing Spider-Man PS4, but then they added swinging tricks and cool power-ups in Miles Morales, and I was like, okay, now this is pretty good. But then, they added web wings. They added the ability to slingshot yourself. They added the ability to skid on water. They added the ability to web somebody, toss them side to side, toss them in the air, swing kick them, and then push them further into the air, and then push them into the ground so hard that they ricochet to the height of a 3-story building. And that's only a fraction of what they added. I seriously cannot think of anything else to add to the Spider-Man portions of the game. So in that aspect, they perfected it. Being Spider-Man is way too much fun. Some of the set pieces in this game are just spectacular to look at. Every Spider-Man level in this game is designed so intricately, and the environments are beautifully curated. Brooklyn and Queens never looked better, and of course the game is a technical masterpiece. I don't think I ever waited a single moment in this game for something to load or process. And I think it took me a longer time to say that sentence than for you to switch between Miles and Peter. However, I did experience a pretty big number of glitches. I had to reset from the last checkpoint a couple of times. I found NPCs stuck in floors. When you have those dual fights with Miles, sometimes Miles just glitches out. And in cutscenes, the camera gets stuck in weird places. Nothing too game-breaking, but it definitely did hinder my experience. Also, I really like how Peter becomes anti-venom. I was not expecting that considering the comics, but it was a welcome change. And also, the whole MJ becoming Scream thing was pretty cool. Okay, that's all the good stuff in this game. It's time to talk about the bad stuff. So my biggest gripe with this game has to be that the MJ stealth segments are back. I did not see this one coming. I remember when I was playing the first MJ stealth segment, I thought that it was a cutscene, so I stood there for a few seconds until I realized that I had to play the game. And then I screamed in agonizing pain. They tried to make these segments more interesting, but honestly, it really did not do much. You just wait, press square, move, wait, and press square again. Sometimes you gotta throw a big thing, but 80% of the time, you're waiting. These segments were so boring and unstimulating that I actually wanted to put the game down and come back another time. The thing that pisses me off the most is the last MJ segment. During the last segment, Peter distracts Venom and Miles has to beat a bunch of symbiotes. And MJ has to go and steal a rock. And for some reason, the game makes you do the most boring task out of the 3 options that I had just listed. Wouldn't it have been so cool to do a fleeing mission where you're running away from Venom? I think that would have been really cool, not just from a gameplay perspective, but also from a story perspective as well. It could show how much stronger Venom is compared to Peter. Or you could have played as Miles and just beat up a bunch of symbiotes until MJ calls you. Like a timed mission or something. But no, instead I have to play Discount Tomb Raider. All you have to do is run and spam the shoot button. It is a really great game design. The next biggest thing that pisses me off is how terrible the characters are. The story isn't particularly bad, but the characters are written so badly that I was surprised that there wasn't a big twist at the end or anything. Harry and Kraven are kind of boring in this game. I didn't get emotional at all over the course of the game. The problem with this is that we as an audience have no pressing concerns for Harry. To explain what I mean, let's look at Aunt May's character from the first game. Now, Aunt May is a very popular character in the Spider-Man universe. Even the most basic person knows that Aunt May is kind and wise. Insomniac wrote Aunt May very well in the first game. We know that Aunt May is nice, but we don't know if Insomniac's Aunt May is nice. I mean, the first time you actually meet Aunt May, you celebrate her birthday with her. Then when Peter gets evicted, she gives you money, and she lets you sleep on her couch. When Martin Lee leaves, wow, try saying that 3 times, you can see her become crushed with the weight of her work.
Is inaccessible. I will call you back as soon as I can get that information. No, I don't know when that will be. What would Ben do?
When Devil's Breath is released, you see her continue to help the people who need her, despite her sickness. And then Peter has to choose between saving her or the entire city.
Take off your mask. I want to see my nephew.
That is how you recontextualize a popular character into a new universe. Insomniac didn't really do that with Harry. We get some cute bike scenes, some high school reunion stuff, some Coney Island stuff, but all this stuff doesn't hit because it isn't written well. The big problem is, if you're a Spider-Man fan, you know that in every single iteration of the character, there is always some sort of betrayal. In the Ultimate series, Harry just disappears. In the Spectacular series, he becomes a dick after playing on the football team. All that I know of Harry in the Insomniac universe is that he had a lot of good moments with Peter. The moments they show us are cute, but it's not written well enough for me to actually care about Harry. I care about Harry Osborn as a character, but I don't care about Insomniac's Harry, if that makes sense. I mean, it was so obvious when dude was like, I want to heal the world, and the opening shot is this dude literally covered in alien goop. Kraven is also just kinda there. His goal of finding a worthy opponent and all is true to the comics and everything, but Kraven isn't really supposed to have a huge army and advanced Wakanda technology at his disposal. I understand if you want to change the character to recontextualize it for a new universe, but I think the main reason why he has access to these things is purely for a gameplay perspective and not from a storytelling perspective. You need baddies to fight, and the hunters are just there to fill that role. And then when he's killed off, he's just like never mentioned again. The fact that some of the side quests have better, well-written, and more interesting stories than the actual mainline story is just crazy. Here you have like a beautiful conversation about a man who lost his wife, and then you have fun dialogue like this.
I think I'm gonna start a petition. Replace all the gun clubs with something better. Like a compliment club. Compliments don't hurt anyone, and they're free. Here come the exterminators! For example, you take a punch really well. Good job.
What?
I would go as far as to say that even Miles has a better story than Peter. There is a clearer emphasis on Peter and company instead of Miles and company, which is sad considering the fact that they should both be co-leads together in their first game together. But just because Miles' story is better, it doesn't make it a good story. The idea of a work-life balance between Miles being Miles and Miles being Spider-Man is something he hasn't experienced yet in this universe, but Peter already experienced loss in the last game. Having him fight someone he really cares about and lose someone important is literally what happened last game. In this game, since Miles has already experienced loss with his dad and this shithole of a character, he has to learn to let go of the past in this game, and he has a cool little arc with it. Kind of. Peter just becomes Bully Maguire and then saves the city. And the thing about Miles suddenly wanting revenge on Martin Lee is kind of weird. Like, he just sees him in a cutscene and then he's all like, oh my god, I gotta take down Lee so I can protect the people I love. Like, Martin Lee wasn't mentioned at all in his standalone game, so why is it mentioned here? And Miles' story doesn't really mesh well with Peter's side of the story. An example of this is the fact that Miles and Harry met once and they just shook hands. And then they had a phone call which Miles references in the final battle against Venom. And that's it. And so Miles doesn't really have a personal reason to fight Venom other than the fact that the world needs him to. I think ultimately I'm just disappointed with the game. Insomniac had 2 tries at the Krabby Patty secret formula, and I thought that this was going to be the one. The closest to perfection a Spider-Man game could get to. Unfortunately, the only thing that moved forward was the Spider-Man-ing and not the Peter Parker-ing. But what that Cindy Moon looking like though, goddamn!